My name is Sophie, I am 38 years old, and I am a writer in Paris. My husband Marc is a 40-year-old lawyer, an intelligent and ambitious man who dedicates a large part of his time to his work. We lead a comfortable and enviable life for many, but this image of perfection hides deep cracks. It all started about 2 years ago during one of those family gatherings that I often find boring. It was an autumn evening, the air was fresh, and the leaves were falling on the cobblestone streets of Paris, creating a red-orange carpet. We were all gathered in the large living room of Marc's mother's Haussmann apartment. The usual conversations revolved around everyone's latest successes, Marc's ongoing cases, and the latest chapters of my new novel. Julien, Marc's uncle, was present that evening. At 55 years old, he had a natural presence and elegance. Unlike Marc, Julien had a more relaxed approach to life, a free spirit that contrasted with the rigid environment of our daily lives. He was a cultured man, a lover of art and literature, with whom it was always pleasant to discuss. That evening, Julien and I started talking about my work. He had read my books and seemed genuinely interested in my ideas and characters. This surprised and flattered me. At each subsequent meeting, I sought his company for these intellectual and stimulating discussions. Our conversations became increasingly personal. We shared deep reflections, unspoken dreams, and memorable memories. One evening after one of these long discussions, we found ourselves alone on the balcony under the Parisian stars. There was a new intimacy in the air. Julien stood close to me, so close that I could feel the warmth of his body and the subtle scent of his cologne. Our hands brushed, and this simple contact sparked a wave of unexpected feelings in me. It was at that moment that our relationship took a turn. We started exchanging messages, initially innocent, then increasingly passionate. Each notification from Julien made my heart beat faster. We found excuses to see each other outside of family gatherings, walks in the Luxembourg Gardens, hidden cafes in quiet alleys, stolen afternoons in museums where we marveled together at works of art. The secret meetings multiplied. I was living in a bubble of excitement and guilt. Every lie I had to tell Marc to justify my absences weighed on me, but the attraction to Julien was stronger than reason. I was carried away by a passion I had never felt before. Our moments together were intense, filled with desire and complicity. There was one afternoon in particular that remains etched in my memory. Julien and I had decided to escape the city for a day. We took the car and drove to the countryside, far from the hustle and bustle of Paris. We found a picturesque little village with stone houses and fields of lavender as far as the eye could see. We spent the day exploring the surroundings hand in hand like young lovers. The sound of a stream, the song of birds, the gentle sun on our skin, everything seemed perfect, unreal. We found a charming inn where we had lunch sitting on the terrace, enjoying wine and regional dishes while exchanging knowing glances. Julien told anecdotes from his childhood, and I was hanging on his every word. At that moment, everything seemed possible as if we were the only ones in the world. After lunch, we walked to a hill offering a panoramic view of the valley. There, under a large oak tree, we lay on the grass. The sky was a brilliant blue, dotted with a few white clouds. Julien kissed me with infinite tenderness, and for the first time, I completely surrendered to him. It was as if the whole world had stopped, and there were only the two of us, wrapped in a bubble of happiness. However, this double life was not without consequences. Every time I returned home after spending time with Julien, reality hit me hard. Marc's questioning looks, his questions about my absences, and especially the guilt gnawing at me from within. I felt like I was playing a role, living in a play where every lie was a carefully rehearsed line. One day, I found myself at Julien's apartment in Le Marais, a place full of charm with exposed beams and windows overlooking a quiet courtyard. We had spent the afternoon together talking and making love. As we lay on the couch, a glass of wine in hand, I felt a mix of happiness and sadness. Julien looked me in the eyes and said, "Sophie, how far are we willing to go with this story?" His question caught me off guard. How far was I willing to go? My marriage with Marc was on the edge, but was I ready to abandon everything for Julien? Silence settled between us, heavy and oppressive. Finally, I whispered, "I don't know, Julien, I don't know." The following days were marked by palpable tension. Julian and I continued to see each other, but something had changed. The guilt was becoming increasingly difficult to bear. One morning, while Marc was working in his home office, I felt nervous as if a storm was brewing. I had left my phone on the living room table by accident. Marc, passing by, saw the screen light up with a message from Julian. Marc's expression changed, a glimmer of suspicion lighting up in his eyes. He picked up my phone and read the messages, and his face crumbled. "Sophie, what is this?" he asked, his voice trembling with anger and pain. I tried to snatch the phone from him, but it was too late. He had seen enough to understand the betrayal. The confrontation was brutal. Marc, devastated by the betrayal, decided to end our marriage. I saw the pain and disappointment in his eyes. He couldn't forgive, and I understood. I had broken our trust, our life together. Marc left our apartment, and I found myself alone with my feelings of regret and loss. The relationship with Julian, although passionate, was not meant to last. We drifted apart, unable to maintain a relationship built on betrayal. Today, I live with the weight of my mistakes. I lost Marc, a good man who didn't deserve this infidelity. Every day, I wonder how I could sacrifice everything for a fleeting passion. I write to try to understand, to try to forgive myself. Paris, with all its beauty and romance, is now the stage of my painful memories. I often think of Marc and what we lost, our morning coffee discussions, our walks along the Seine, our quiet evenings reading together. All of that is gone, replaced by an immense void. I know I have to live with the consequences of my actions, but it's a daunting task. Every street in Paris reminds me of a moment shared with Marc or a secret escapade with Julian, the cafes where we stopped to talk, the bookstores where I sought inspiration, the parks where we walked hand in hand. Everything is imbued with painful memories. Sometimes I find myself hoping to run into Marc around a corner, to be able to talk to him, to apologize again and again, but I know it's useless. He has chosen to rebuild his life without me, and I must respect that. Looking back on Julian, I realize that what we had was more an escape from reality than a true love story. It was intense, passionate, but also destructive. Julian offered me an escape, an illusion of freedom and happiness, but it couldn't last. We tried to stay in touch after the separation with Marc, but each meeting was filled with guilt and sadness. We eventually decided to part ways for good, letting our paths diverge. Now, I try to rebuild myself. I write more than ever, diving into my stories to escape reality. My latest novel is a reflection of my experiences, an exploration of love, betrayal, and forgiveness. It's a catharsis, a way to understand and heal. I also started seeing a therapist, someone I can talk to openly about my mistakes and feelings. It helps me face the guilt and pain, find ways to forgive myself and start over. The road is long and arduous, but I believe there is still hope. Paris, despite the painful memories, remains a city of beauty and rebirth. Every day is a new opportunity to rediscover the city, to find new places, to create new memories. I know I can't erase the past, but I can learn to live with it and move forward. I enrolled in cooking classes, something I had always wanted to do but never took the time for. It gives me a new perspective, a new passion. I also started volunteering. Helping others brings me a certain inner peace and allows me to see beyond my own problems. Meetings with friends, though sometimes difficult, are also a source of comfort. Some have distanced themselves after learning what happened, but others have stayed, supporting me during this difficult time. Their words and presence help me not to sink completely. Every day is another step toward healing. I know it will take time, maybe even years, but I am determined to move forward. Through writing, therapy, and new experiences, I begin to see a glimmer of hope. One morning, as I was walking along the Seine, I felt an inner calm that I hadn't felt in a long time. The sun was rising, bathing the city in golden light. I took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill my lungs, and for the first time in a long time, I felt that everything was going to be okay. Life goes on, and with it, the hope of better days. Paris, with all its complexity and beauty, will always be a part of me. The cobblestone streets, the lively cafes, the majestic bridges, all part of my story, a story of betrayal, sure, but also a story of redemption and renewal. And so, I continue to write, to live, to love. Every day is a new page, a new chance to reinvent my story. And maybe one day I will find love again, a love built on truth and trust. For now, I focus on myself, on rebuilding my soul and my heart. Life is unpredictable, full of surprises and challenges, but I am ready to face them, strengthened by my experiences and mistakes. Because deep down, we are all imperfect beings, seeking our way in this labyrinth called life, and it is this quest, with its ups and downs, that makes us who we are. Since my separation from Marc, life has taken an unexpected turn. The apartment we shared is now silent, the walls echoing memories of our past life. Each room tells a different story, each object evokes a memory. The nights are the hardest, the bed is too big without Marc, and the absence of his warmth makes sleep difficult to find. Sometimes I wake up with a start, hoping to see him by my side, but the void is all I find. I spend a lot of time walking the streets of Paris, finding some comfort in the constant movement of the city, the booksellers along the Seine, the bustling markets, the cafes where people gather to talk and watch. All of this offers me a welcome distraction. There is poetry in the daily life of Paris, a sweet melancholy that resonates with my own state of mind. I started frequenting the places where Marc and I used to go, the little cafe at the corner of our street where we often had breakfast on Sunday mornings, the park where we loved to sit and watch passers-by, the cinema where we saw so many films together. Each visit is a trial, but also a way to face the reality of our separation. One evening, coming back from one of these solitary walks, I found a letter in my mailbox. It was from Marc. My heart tightened, recognizing his handwriting. I sat in the living room, the letter trembling in my hands before finally opening it. Dear Sophie, I know you are going through a difficult time, just like me. I have thought a lot about what happened between us and what we have lost. I can't erase the pain and betrayal, but I want you to know that I don't entirely blame you. We both made mistakes, and we must learn to live with them. I just wanted to say that I wish you the best. I hope you find peace and healing. Maybe one day we can see each other again and talk as friends, without resentment or anger. In the meantime, take care of yourself. With all my affection. Marc. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I read these words. It was a small glimmer of hope, a sign that maybe one day we could both find a way to coexist peacefully, even if our love was over. Since that letter, I have started to feel a bit lighter. The guilt is still there, but it is less overwhelming. I know I still have a long way to go, but I am ready to do it. In writing my next novel, I explore themes of redemption and forgiveness. My characters go through trials similar to mine, and through them, I find a form of healing. Writing has become my therapy, my refuge. I also decided to travel a bit, to leave Paris for a while and discover new horizons. Maybe the distance will help me see things from a different perspective, to find a new outlook. I am soon leaving for Italy, a country I have always dreamed of visiting. The landscapes, the culture, the food, all of it calls to me. Preparing for this trip, I feel an excitement I haven't felt in a long time. It's a new adventure, a new chance to rediscover myself, and maybe somewhere on those Italian roads, I will finally find the inner peace I seek. As I close my suitcase, ready to leave, I take one last look at the apartment. This is where so many things happened, beautiful memories as well as painful moments. But I am ready to turn the page, to write a new chapter of my life. Paris will always remain in my heart, a city of memories and transformation, but for now, Italy awaits me with its promises of renewal and adventure. And so, I leave, my heart a little lighter, ready to embrace what life has to offer.